Everybody. Mother Nature's turned it on at the old sports ground today. The best day of winter on what's the worst day of the year. Funny how things work out. We're just about to kick off, so I'll get you to double check your mobile phones to switch to silent before we do. And I'd invite the pallbearers to make their way out onto the field. You're going to get some cracking music today to send Dino off. He wasn't your average bear. Life in the fast lane, eh? Sounds about right, Johnny. I'm told Dean had a couple of speeds, flat stick and conked out, so that song makes sense today. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's with a heavy heart I stand before you today. But it's my great honour and solemn duty to stand up here as everyone comes together to mourn the devastating loss, but more importantly to celebrate the life and the impact of Dean John O'Connell, who has been taken way too young, the tender age of 38. You know, this is the worst kind of king hit. It's a mugging. You know, it's like getting struck by lightning. And it's a shockwave that's levelled just everyone in its path. You know, it's the worst hand in the deck that Dean and his family have copped. And nothing could be crueler than that. So to Dean's nearest and dearest, his wife Jill, who obviously fell for his romantic wares after he took her to Macca's on their first date. Smooth operator. His beautiful daughter Ava, of whom he was so proud. His parents John and Annette, and John went through school with my old man. His younger brother and best mate Reese. His sister-in-law Kat and his nieces Willow and Bonnie, who he adored. Extended family, and just countless mates scattered to all points of the compass, because he had plenty of mates. I just offer heartfelt condolences on behalf of a community in mourning and acknowledge there are no words that can ease your despair. You know, to quote the great Willie Nelson, it's not something you get over, it's just something you get through. You can only get through that together. But I can tell you with clarity that none of us have promised tomorrow, so don't muck around with today. And never miss a chance to tell the people who are important to you that you love them, you're proud of them. Give them a big cuddle today and hold on for dear life. You know, Dean's passing is the starkest reminder of how fragile and fleeting life is. So everyone's rattled by this, and you all trudge here forlornly. You know, a broad family united in the rawest grief. Suddenly, you know, lost in the fog of so much shared history, weighed down by those inevitable feelings of anger and confusion, you know, and you've got every right to be pissed off. And mourning the loss of someone who was so loved and respected, someone who achieved so much and was destined to achieve a hell of a lot more. You know, a dedicated family man and really a community leader from the old school who was still full of potential, had plenty left to give. So you're heartbroken and lost, and you're rightly wondering if the light will ever make its way back in through the darkness of what's a nightmare. You know, it will. It'll just take time. Because what's happened is beyond unfair, and it just sucks. So you've got to get your head around that. And there's no magic solution. But you know, today's a good start on that path to reminding everyone how important it is not to dwell on things that can't be changed. You know, today's not about tormenting anyone with those maddening questions, the whys, the what ifs. They haven't got answers. You know, today's about acknowledging that Dean's not defined by his shock passing. He's defined by the man he was. You know, by everything good and purposeful and worthwhile in his life. Today's about coming together to honour a dedicated family man who worked his way up the ladder from an apprenticeship at Closters to a pretty sweet position as mining support manager with industry giant WestTrac. Building a prosperous, comfortable life for himself and his two girls, who are his motivation for everything. Today's about saluting a loyal mate who always had your back if you were part of his mob. Today's about, marvelling at the feats of a relentless networker who could talk the leg off an iron pot and sell ice to the Eskimos. A team player with a head full of big dreams and a tank full of dash, who believed in the old saying, there are no strangers, only friends you haven't met yet. I'm reliably informed Dean bounced out of bed at 4:30 every morning and was horizontal blowing bubbles by 7:30 every night. But there's 15 hours between 4:30 and 7:30, if my maths is right. And for those 15 hours, his energy was nuclear. He either knew someone or knew someone who knew someone. And he knew just about everyone. That's why he always seemed to land on his feet in the best corporate boxes on the biggest days. Invites to the golf and race days, all the cream. I think there's a story that goes to why people gravitated towards Dean, whether it was, through work or his community work. And it's not long after setting up their home at Bulwarra, Dean and Jill were volunteering on the Pumpkin Pickers Committee down here. Now, this wasn't because one of them was playing or they had kids in the ranks. They were just rugby league fans who thought a Saturday or Sunday arvo at the local footy, couple of tins, would be a pretty good way to make friends in their new hometown. And you're there, so why not put the shoulder to the wheel and help out along the way? Put your hand up. Goers like Dean and Jill are the lifeblood of grassroots sporting and community groups everywhere. Now, in this day and age, it's reassuring to me that these selfless, sort of community-minded throwbacks still exist. They're still out there. The type who ask, what can I do, instead of what's in it for me? And in a few seasons, they've become part of the furniture, part of the black and white family. So there's a lot to be proud about, and that's what today's about. Remembering Dean at his dazzling best. And while ever those memories live in you, his spirit will burn brightly and his blinding light will never go out. So well played, mate. Rest easy. We'll move on to our tributes now, and Jill's going to kick things off.
Dean, you had me from hello. Since then, you were our rock. You held us together and made sure we were always happy. You were the best husband, dad, and friend to many. You had energy for life. You were the one who planned our holidays and fun weekends. You liked to look the part, spending hours in David Jones looking for the best outfit. Mornings were so fun with you, Dean, turning the Ninja Bullet into my alarm at 5:30 just so you could have the healthiest of smoothies. Every holiday was a different theme. You turned into Bob Marley on our last Turunga holiday, listening to the same reggae music mix on repeat. Life was never dull. We never went anywhere without you knowing someone or someone knowing you. I am so lucky to have spent the last 10 years with you and Ava. You have left us too soon. Your energy and happiness will live on with me forever. Thank you for always telling me I just want you to be happy. Even in times like these, your positivity is helping me get through. You are my whole world. Thank you for everything.
You did it, Jill. Pure class. Righto, John and Annette and Reese are going to get up now.
The sudden and tragic loss of our big boy, Dean John, has been devastating to us. Dean was always the shining light in our lives, whether he was opening the bowling or smashing sixes on the cricket field or racing away to score a goal at soccer. He was a star. There was no better feeling as a dad than to be sitting out the back of the break in the rubber duck and watching him power through the surf in the Sunday morning swim at Nobby's. Even if he was cheating by using the rip next to the soldiers' bars to get out to the cans quicker. That was Dean. It was during his time as a volunteer surf lifesaver that he achieved one of his proudest moments when he single-handedly saved the life of a young dad after the surf patrol had finished for the day at Hawks Nest Beach. He was determined to see that whole family go home safely and risked his own life to ensure that happened. He always looked out to help others. We also fondly remember the day that as a member of the Pious School rock band, they brought Westfield Katara to a standstill with their expired cover of Silverchair's The Greatest View. the words of which are somewhat ironic here today. We could never forget the Saturday night walks to the Warners Bay Hotel, traveller in hand as arranged and assisted upon by Dean for a few quiet hours before returning home to crank up the sound bar to full volume on YouTube to serenade the night away with all types of music. One such rendition was recently posted on Facebook by his little brother, which many of you would have seen. One of my favourite songs, American Pie, which was an outstanding effort by all involved, to say the least. One of our greatest thrills was to be able to say to people that Dean was our son, or for Reese that he was my big brother. We were so proud of how far he had come, the devoted husband, doting father, friend to all, mentor and supporter of everyone who had the pleasure of knowing him or just being around him. Anyhow, I can feel him becoming a little agitated at my waffling on and eating into valuable socialising time. In his own often used words, he was a champion and a legend and a 100% great mate and friend to all who knew him or ever came in contact with him. So Dino, until we meet again at that big bar and barbecue in the sky to share another cold one, you rest in peace. We miss you immensely and we will always love you, buddy.
I don't know, I can't imagine how hard that was. And that was just dignity. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Beautiful family. Righto, Louie's going to get up now. He's great, mate. There's a few good yarns in this one. Have a go at this rooster. Doing the slow strut, Louie. This is a cracking tribute. I read it last night. It's a beauty.
That'll be right. I trust they'll hear me. Welcome, family, friends, and legends. Today we are remembering the good times of my best mate, Dean. We called each other brother. I'm grateful for the privilege to have walked this far in life alongside him as he grew into the strong, inspirational, and big-hearted man that we came to love and admire. We freely gave each other three things: an ear to listen, a hand when needed, and the truth, whether you wanted it or not. I've not met many people in life that can change you just by his greeting. A huge smile and a "G'day, legend" was all it took, because he knew it was genuine and that he was interested in you as a person. I couldn't describe him any better, and I'd like to thank Maxie Dawn for that quote. But Dean was just that, genuine. No one can tell me that his laugh wasn't his most infectious quality. 100% he was heard well before he was seen. He had no time for negativity or time wasters. I don't even think he ever learnt to sit still. We first come to meet at the warehouse in Newcastle. Even back then, I remember him radiating a good nature and high-spirited view on life that we all got to share with him along the way. At first, Dean and I were oil and water to start with. You wouldn't believe it. I was the supervisor, he was the junior. He the extrovert, I the introvert. He talked while I thought. He was a teenager, I was already a father. But somehow, as they do, opposites attract and we started getting along. Then one night, he maybe meets me hustling full at the local table. He just finished washing dishes at his other job, and happened to come to the other pub across the town to play pool. Long story short, we may or may not have won lots of cash, but we certainly broke many laws rampaging across Newcastle until 4 a.m. on a work night. We didn't attend the next day, and then after that we endured 3 days of lectures and consequences from spouses, parents and our managers. But an incredible friendship was forged then that never broke. He shared with me 2 of his proudest milestones. I got to hold Ava when she was not a month old, and I was honoured to be his best man, to stand beside Reese as we handed him off, well, in my case, offloaded him to Jill, the singer girl who stole his heart at Macca's. Since meeting, Jill and I have laughed, disagreed, had many celebrations and good times with our best mate. It's funny though, whenever Dino and Jill are alone, Dean's name sometimes changed to your mate. For an example, it would be, did your mate tell you about? Or did your mate call you about such and such? I soon worked out this was Jill's way of telling me, check on my mate. Oh, Jesus. But that's what I'll miss most. The phone calls or the texts at any time. And I mean any time. For any reason. 6 a.m, Monday. What's the plans this week, Gary? 9 p.m. Hey, listen, what's your thoughts on 10 a.m? What time are you finishing today, Gary? Or a text on Sunday at 8 o'clock with wild flame, question mark, question mark, question mark. How many of your mates call you while they're on their honeymoon? Dino called me. Not even 2 days in Hawaii and he's calling me. You know, Jill, I tried to remind him why he was in Hawaii, but that was Dean, always caring about others first. I can't tell you how many times he called me late in the garage just to talk. Then sooner or later, I'd hear the door open and Jill go, Dean, what are you doing? Dean, go to bed. After I moved up here, the pair of us took up golf. An easy and very cheap sport if you didn't know. Yeah, good. Those are the words you hear from Dino often. It told us that he hit a bad shot. So yes, we heard, yeah, good, very often on a lot of rounds. Many here remember the others like, mate, it's just golf. See the ball, hit the ball, get in the cart. Or, phew, you hit that like a redheaded stepchild. Or on trips away when we were unwell. Hit the middle ball, Gary. After work, Dino and I would gather on the driveway weekly for Friday catch-ups or Wednesday catch-ups, or whatever day he'd send a text and say, catch up my house that afternoon. And it was settled. You'd arrive to an open garage door, beer in the fridge, sport on the telly, and a "G'day, mate." Soon enough, the neighbours would start showing up like moths to a flame. He told me numerous times how much he loved those nights when everyone was gathered around Jill, Ava and him, talking about anything and everything. No one ever needed an invitation to the garage. But one thing you always knew, when it was time to leave. The door would suddenly shut, or a bucket of water would find the fire. Dino appreciated our sneak-offs to the clubs, days at the footy, or our golf trips away. Golf opened many new social circles to the pair of us through the Kiama Chappers, also known as the Scoats. You can ask what that means later. The Bradford Sunday Sippers, and the numerous charity events we attended with many local business owners around Maitland, who we soon called mates. Eventually these connections led us to joining the Pickers family. Dean wanted nothing more to be a sponsor, so when he couldn't, he asked me if I would. I did some dancing, pulled some strings, and we ended up in the sponsors Pickers list. Now, we all know that my company and Josh represented as the sponsor, but Dino didn't miss out on any of the perks that came with it. He got season passes, free drink days, bus trips, breakfasts, and of course corporate suite tickets. But he was always grateful for any invite and was getting quicker at negotiating with Jill so he could go with the boys. Although I know he truly loved it more, Jill, when you were there. Actually, one time last year I invited Jill instead of Dean to the Sponsors Day. When he finally gets there, he calls me over thinking I've got his wristband and everything ready for him and thought I was joking. I actually didn't have a wristband for him, it was actually Jill invited. That side-on look he gives you and that abuse that I copped that followed was so worth inviting Jill. He actually didn't call me for almost a week. In closing, to me, Dino always found a way to focus on the positives in any situation, see the light within the dark. Don't get bitter, get better, we'd say. He was a diamond in the rough, and he was my best mate, my brother. To Jill and Ava and the family, I can only offer the same thing I gave him freely: an ear, a hand, and the truth. And finally, I'm going to end on Dino's highest praise, which actually is above legend. Not many would have heard it, some would have. To Dino Connell. What a lord!
That's unreal, Louis. And not only a tribute to your mate, but got to something deeper about what mateship's all about. Righto, beautiful tributes, one and all. Dino would have been blown away by all of them. And now where's the screen? Over here. Hard to miss. So have a look at the big screen over here on the hill and look at some great memories from Dean's life. A song that's very special to Dean and his dad. A ripper. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, and a big one. He's, he's made of the right stuff. There's some great shots in there. I'm assuming there's one in there, Jill, on your wedding day. That's the greatest wedding celebration I reckon I've ever seen. There was a man who knew he'd had a rainbow shot up his arse and had won lotto. He was pretty happy with himself. You know, the photos that got me are obviously the ones with his little girl, who's not so little anymore, but you know how much your dad loved you, right? More than anything. Righto, well, those memories just wash over you a bit, so now it's pretty overwhelming. Just going to share a little reading by the great writer Robert Louis Stevenson. It's called That Man Is a Success. That man is a success, who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who has gained the respect of intelligent men and women, and the trust and adoration of children, who has filled his niche and accomplished his task, who leaves the world better than he found it, who has never lacked appreciation of Earth's beauty or failed to express it, who always looked for the best in others and always gave the best he had. Could have been written for him. As we come towards the end of the service, just remind everyone you're all invited back to the Bradford to get on the Terps, get a good run up at the Origin. There'll be a good arvo out there today. But don't be shy about, just finding a quiet moment with Dino's family and telling them what he meant to you, because every little bit will help today. Don't think they don't want to hear it, they do. Whatever you talk about him, he'll still be around. He leaves behind a wonderful legacy. And the example he set with his kindness, his commitment, his unstoppable enthusiasm, his loyalty, his easygoing nature. They're all things that touched each and every one of you. And those qualities live on in you. So I'll just say, stick solid, look after each other. You'll come through the other side of this stronger, and you'll do Dean's memory proud. But I now ask everyone who's able to stand for the words of committal, please. Well, it's now time to tenderly, lovingly, and with utmost reverence commit the body of Dean John O'Connell to nature's keeping. And spirit of life be with all of you, giving you the peace of acceptance and understanding and reassurance in those special qualities that never die but pass down through the generations. We give thanks for Dean's life. Remember with fondness and gratitude his fierce devotion to family, friends and community, his immense pride in being Ava's dad, the great love he found with Jill, his tirelessness and his tenacity, his humility and his humour, his mischief and his cheek, and the many lessons he's passed on to all of you and countless more who are fortunate to know him. So Dean, you were so loved, and your life, though cut heartbreakingly short, still had the most profound meaning. You achieved so much, you'd only just started. You definitely left the world in better shape than you found it, and you'll never ever be forgotten by those who loved you so dearly. So Louis already pinched what a lord. So I'll steal a line from the great rugby league coach Jack Gibson, been down here in the sunshine at the old sports ground. Played strong, done fine. If you could remain standing, I'd call the pallbearers up. And we're going to take Dino out to a song you would have never heard at one of these gigs. That's for sure. Should be more of it. Bit of regurgitator. I don't go to parties, baby.